Consider supporting Archaeo-Soup on Patreon for as little as $1 per month. Link available in the video description. Thank you. Good evening, Kenny and Ian.
Hi, how's it going? How's it going?
Not too bad, thank you, not too bad. Now, I have requested this interview with you, having seen a little project that you're proposing. It's a wee little thing, nothing too astonishing. It's made it up into various news headlines and also onto my Facebook page a couple of times. This is the desire that you have to build an Iron Age Broch monument. Now, can you just explain to the wonderful people at home what a Broch is, and how on earth you started this? Where did this come from? Why do you want to do this?
Well, I think we will both agree that Brochs are massive, huge Iron Age towers that are found only across the north of Scotland. So, we were looking at the time, thinking about how we could better promote the culture of Caithness.
Yeah.
And what we thought was that rebuilding an Iron Age Broch in Caithness would serve as a great experimental archaeological project, but also a great tourist focus. It would help to put Caithness back on the map, on the historical map.
Yeah, excellent. And just to clarify then, are you coming at this from an archaeological perspective or from a sort of a building perspective? How are you sort of, beyond building it, how are you sort of measuring this project in terms of its aspirations? Like what do you want to get out of it?
Well, I think it's a pretty multifaceted project. So
yeah.
As Iain says, it's a kind of experimental archaeology project. One of the largest of its kind, certainly in the UK and perhaps Europe and perhaps even the world, and one I think that will hold a lot of interest for archaeologists and historians and just the general people as well.
Yeah.
Aside from that, it's also we really hope this would be a major tourist draw as well.
Yeah.
So the Caithness being quite a vulnerable, remote county, it's the northernmost county in mainland Britain. We're kind of seeking to really open it up to tourism, much in the way that Orkney has, and the way that Orkney has really captured the imaginations of people across the world. And so we want to give people something which is a true archaeological experiment, so true to what a Broch would have been like, how it would have been built, so the traditional methods involved. But at the same time, it has to incorporate a sort of tourist aspect, if you like. Not quite a theme park, but something that certainly attracts people to the area, and thereby becoming a sort of sustainable, viable attraction and propping up the county's tourism in a sense. As well as that, though, the building aspect is really important, because the sort of traditional skills that are involved here is something that we would really like to promote. Caithness being once kind of at the forefront of flagstone industry in the world. I mean, if you look anywhere across the world, you'll see that there's examples of Caithness flagstone. New York, Buenos Aires, Australia, London, I think it's Fleet Street, I think, is paved with Caithness flagstone, for instance. But dry stone diking, that is to say, sort of building with the Caithness flagstone and using dry stone techniques without any lime and mortar, things like that. That was a big skill in the county, and it's something that we would like to preserve and promote as well.
Okay, so this is very reminiscent of for example, there's a project underway at the moment to build a medieval castle using medieval techniques and this kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's very reminiscent of that. But how are you going about choosing the techniques and the tools and the approach to this project? Are you being led by archaeology, or are you being led by, for example, the concerns of and the needs really of a modern building site in terms of safety, for example?
Striking the balance between the two, Most of the design for the Broch that we've put together is informed by archaeology. So the door sizes, for example, we're looking for a door size that can be found in archaeology, but also one that suits current regulation, if you like. So, a difficult process to find examples of these, but we're confident that we have. The Broch's a complex structure. I've often heard people say the more you look at Brochs, the more complex they become. You think you understand them as just a simple dry stone tower, and the more you look into it, it becomes far more complex than that. So we've challenges in designing the Broch. Obviously, no archaeological remains of the roof are survived after 2,000 years. So as much as our design has been informed as much as possible by remaining archaeology, once the archaeology can no longer indicate and inform the design, we actually have to start making up some of these parts, like on informed conjecture about pieces of the roof and things like that. As far as the construction process goes, we'd like to demonstrate in certain areas how we feel it was built, but then because of the rigours of health and safety in this country, eventually you're going to have to use scaffolding, harnesses, hard hats and things like that, and perhaps it won't be as purist an experimental archaeological project as Gildion in France would be, but it's certainly an excellent model. It's certainly at the forefront of experimental archaeology globally.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and so what sort of how intricate a design are you going for with this Broch? In so much as they range from fairly simple towers to towers with multi floors and maybe places for storing feed and animals and food. So I mean, how far are you going with this? And would you, for example, would you ever want to try and get a pig or cow in there?
Yeah. Well, we'd like to go all the way. I'd like to say, the Brochs have got multiple phases of construction. We'd like to think that because Musa Broch, the only one that still survives to its full height in Shetland, that's kind of become burned into the consciousness of people's expectations of what a Broch actually is. So when we were choosing what Broch to build, we always thought, well, we'll go for the zenith one, the big Broch, the one that everyone expects to see because they're so used to seeing the silhouette of Musa, So we're going to go for a multi-storey tower, if you like. It's going to be 20 metres across at the bottom and 10 metres high.
Wow.
And hopefully it should have one floor and one mezzanine level above, Again, the higher up the structure you go, the less archaeological remains are there to inform on the design. So the design is pretty much finished as up until the roof area, and then we still have to answer some questions about what's the best method of roofing a structure like this.
Excellent.
The design will be informed by
experimental archaeology.
Experimental archaeology. I'm looking at what went before. There's no need to redesign the wheel here. People have been living in roundhouse huts across the Atlantic fringe for 2,000 years before the Broch was constructed to its full height. So a lot of the design will probably come from designs that you'd be used to seeing at other experimental archaeological projects like Butzer Farm,
Butzer Ancient Farm, the Iron Age farm in the south of England. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that makes sense. So to what extent do you think that some of these design questions then might be answered by the possibilities of the materials? Presumably, you're going to be using local stone, local wood, and this kind of thing. And I suppose a tag on to that question is, how comparable are current conditions to what you understand of, for example, the trees that were available to Iron Age people at the time?
It's always been a bit of a point of contention, especially for the project, the availability of a wood question, But we can't be constrained by archaeological questions that have no answers. Other people live in the north of Scotland with roofs above their head, and there's no need to then assume that the Broch shouldn't have a roof, So although many people might not know, but Caithness isn't exactly famed for its wooded areas. It's a very desolate and barren area, and so is the rest of the north of Scotland. And it's thought through archaeology that this was the case 2,000 years ago back in Broch times as well. So the wood question, some Brochs have got evidence preserved of wood. We've seen wood with piddock holes in it, which are small sea anemones that drill into wood. So we know that wood was driftwood. And some of the wood, as far as Shetland, was spruce, funnily enough. So we don't know if that was grown locally or traded in, but one way or another, we're pretty certain that there was wood involved with Brochs. And we shouldn't, as a project, be constrained by archaeological questions as to whether there was wood at the time or not. We should just assume, based on the fact that people before went with roofs above their head, that
well, yeah, you need a roof. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, interesting.
We're trying our best, given the little scarce data that there is to go upon, but little wee snippets will be impact the design. We'll always say that if we find spruce, then that's possibly the wood that we should use.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. This Broch project is a wonderful. Thank you. The pronunciation there, folks. I've been Welsh, not Scottish. It's just like this. But anyway, this Broch project is obviously an aspect of what you've been doing, but it seems that you've been involved in archaeological outreach and charitable aspects for a wee while now. I mean, how does this fit into where you got started and what's been happening previously?
Yeah, well, myself and Iain actually co-founded this in 2013, which seems like a lifetime ago now, actually.
Oh, I bet,
because the kind of grand vision, the flagship project was such a big, ambitious idea, we had to start small. We had to kind of build up a kind of portfolio of projects, and I think it's what's called a legacy of success. And so we started in 2015 by installing interpretive panels at some Broch sites, working with various children's groups, the local museum groups, just doing things like picture stone carving. Iain does carving as well. We also had a Lego Broch built by the good people of Brick to the Past, who are wonderful, so do check them out.
Yeah.
And that was part of a Broch exhibition, which at the same time ran alongside the Caithness Broch Festival, which was a series of excavations at 3 Broch sites in Caithness, one of which we're hoping to do again in 2019. And on top of that, if all the sort of outreach projects and all the talks that we do across Scotland, actually, we are also trying to conserve an existing Broch called Archaeo-Chat Broch, which is probably Caithness's best example of a Broch, but fairly recently some of the buttressing, which was actually constructed during its initial excavation about 100 years ago, collapsed, and because it's a dry stone structure, it has sort of pulled everything else out of place, and so it's not in a good position, or it's not in a good sort of situation at the moment. So we're currently very close to coming to a sort of deal to get that sorted out, and that's a major project. That is something about a little under £200,000 that will cost to conserve.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
But we hope that after it's conserved, it'll act like a flagship archaeological site in the way that Gurness or Clickaman, Shetland, Gurness and Orkney, each one of the regions of Scotland have kind of got their flagship Broch, and Caithness is maybe missing that a little bit with Archaeosdale because it's become so much in disrepair. It's not been looked after. It's got a tree growing out.
Yeah, so a lot of our projects are the main project is to encourage people to Caithness, but a lot of these smaller projects are to encourage people in Caithness to think more positively about archaeology and the way that it can instill a sense of pride in place. It can make you feel better living in a place, and I really like the way that archaeology does that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's starting to emerge now that how we go about interpreting this multi-phase and even interpreting the fact that the 19th century people were in here and how they dealt with the Broch back then, so there are talks now about what phase of the Broch it is you're trying to interpret, instead of looking at this continual Broch construction development over the course of 500 years doesn't really hold much water anymore. There's multiple phases of occupation, and how the interpretation is set forth really is what's going to encapsulate that. And in the past, it's just been like, here's a Broch, make of it what you will. And in the future, the interpretation is going to start getting a little bit deeper into what different periods of occupation, what effects that's had on the structural fabric of the building there.
Yeah, okay. And just finally, what's a pinning stone, just to confirm for the audience at home?
It's like if you have 2 large stones and you've ended up with quite a big gap in between them, you would come in with pinning stones then and begin to fill the little gaps between the stones. What that's doing is stopping the freedom of movement for these stones to move anymore. As they move, they'll lock up against the pinning stones, creating a more locked up kind of fabric on the wall face of the structure. Like.
Excellent, cool.
But yes, just everything is always moving and deteriorating at all times. Every conservation will have to be conserved again at another time. Nothing is ever held still forever.
Indeed. We live in a constant state of decay. But anyway, moving on from that. So what's the eventual outcome then, in terms of when if you have this Broch built, will it be for education, for tourism? I know you've mentioned the tourist aspect, but will, for example, people be able to stay over in the Broch? Will archaeologists like myself get to go and run around pretending to be Iron Age people?
It's certainly not going to be a cheap project, so it does need to be. There needs to be some sort of output from this project, which demonstrates to funders that this is going to be sustainable. It's going to be successful. So those things are yet to be decided on, and I think the project development brief that we're working on just now will inform us of some of those things. But with regards to the kind of final vision that we have, it is a very much a mixture of the three things. It is a celebration of the traditional skills, and with that we would hope to have some sort of traditional skills workshop present at the site throughout the construction period, but then also afterwards too.
Well, for maintenance as well, presumably.
Maintenance, absolutely. And in addition to that, it is an experimental archaeology project, so we hope that this project will be able to answer some questions, or partly answer some questions. It's not going to give the definitive answer, but it might help in some way.
If there's a fire inside, where does the smoke go?
Yeah.
These questions have ever really been looked at seriously in Broch design, and it seems that the only real way of answering these questions is to build them and see how it flows.
Yeah. Well, in that sense, you could even go, for example, in lots of Iron Age houses, it looks as though there may have been a smoking area for fish and salmon and meat and this kind of thing up in the roof. So you could even develop your own line of smoked food. Who knows?
Absolutely, yeah. But I think the impetus for this project is not only an interest in archaeology that myself and Iain share, and a lot of people around Caithness too.
Yeah.
It is looking forward to the future of Caithness and trying to understand what's going to happen, because Dounreay is the main employer in this county. It employs about 1 in 5 people in the area. It's due to close completely round about 2036, so not long, and that is a very serious prospect that everyone in Caithness is aware of and has to consider. And essentially, this project is a kind of draw for tourists, which will help to shore up businesses in the area. So I think that's the kind of the main reason for the construction, but it's not the only reason, but it does certainly form a really important part of our project. So like we said, it is a mixture of the three.
We've both spent a lot of time in Orkney, and we went over there, and you have to sail to Orkney from Caithness, and it seems that there's such a change, because archaeology and history is such a big thing in Orkney. People are coming from all over the world. I say Orkney and you think standing stones. When I say Caithness, what springs to mind? So we maybe got a bit jealous there of Orkney and thought, well, how can we share a little bit of this pie? Our target market are driving through Caithness to go to Orkney to see archaeology. And in truth, Caithness has got as much archaeology going for it as Orkney does, but people are just driving right by it.
And actually, and that's it, because I'm always looking for an excuse to try and get up to Orkney. I've not yet been there. I've been to John O'Groats, and then we didn't get much further. But in that sense, this would be a wonderful opportunity to almost have a stepping stone on that sort of tour, frankly. And also the archaeology in Orkney. The archaeology in Orkney is only going to get more and more interesting. I mean, some of the stuff that they're digging up there at the moment is fascinating. And okay, cool. So, how can interested folks at home get involved? How can they help out with this project?
Loads of ways, actually. You can start just by following us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We're Caithness Broch Project. You can join as a member via our website, so that's www.thebrochproject.co.uk. You can sign up as a life member or an annual member. You can drop us an email if you'd like to know more, or you'd like to help more or get more directly involved, and that's caithnessbrochproject@gmail.com. And we currently have a crowdfunder at the moment, which is for a really a pressing part of our project to sort of really develop it.
Yeah.
It's the project development brief. Sounds like a dry document, but it's very important.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crucial in informing, well, what do we do next, because this is such a unique and crazy project that we need to be informed by the right people.
Yeah.
We're looking to raise a little bit more money, so there's a crowdfunder, and that can be accessed by our website and also by our social media pages as well. So
excellent.
Yeah, plenty of ways to help out.
No, cool, brilliant. Well, I'm fascinated by this, and if I'll definitely keep an eye on it, and if it gives me an excuse to finally get off the top, then I'll be up there. It'll be fantastic.
We'd be happy to take you around and show you around Caithness a little bit.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely.
You've definitely got to see some of the broths here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will do. Well, if it's okay, I'll keep tabs with you guys as things progress, and obviously, I'm sure people at home would love to hear and see more. And all I can say is good luck. I mean, this is a fascinating project. I'm almost envious of the vision in that sense, but also I don't envy you at this stage.
Yeah. Get on board and then become part of the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm sorely tempted. Although the only downside is, unfortunately, even though lots of people in most of, for example, England don't know this, even though I live on Hadrian's Wall is still a long way from from where you guys are. But I'm fascinated by this. So well done and good luck. Fascinating. Grand. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening. And as I say, I'll put links below for people at home, and do check out the website as well. And I think as well the crowdfunding, just fascinating. Thank you.
Thanks to everyone who donates.